Welcome to Align Your Practice, an exploration of the seamless relationship between the business of chiropractic and the future of natural health care. Join us as we engage with an array of talent, from seasoned experts to passionate new entrepreneurs. Now, here's your host, Dr. Joe Esposito.
Welcome back to Align Your Practice with Dr. Joe Esposito. We're excited today to have Dr. Bryne Willey in the studio. We're going to be talking about starting a new practice. Bryne, how are you?
Fantastic, man. I'm excited to talk about the journey. I understand there's going to be a lot of students and new docs listening to this, so I think this would be a worthwhile conversation for them to have some context and onboarding of what's possible for them.
Yeah, so we're talking doctors that may be an associate for a decade. There could be a doctor that's never thought about this, like you told me in your story offline of not planning to open a practice right off the bat. But think 10 years down the road, being in practice and being like, I think I want to open my own. Like, that's a daunting feeling. Like, what do you do? Or a student. So let's kind of break this down. How do you want to approach this? Because I know you've done it. If you want to go back to that time, I know you were an associate in AlignLife practice.
Yeah, I only had a year to learn the systems, and then I was going to move back to practice in my own hometown, and just knew that I wanted to be home. And if that was going to happen, I had to open my own practice. And so I had the amazing blessing of having a year to be in the systems, but I only had a year to be in the system. So it was kind of a daunting or a scary proposition, but it's something that I just knew I had to do.
So you went down, the practice that we helped you purchase, was that the first opportunity, or did you look at empty buildings or go back to
No, Joey, that was the opportunity. That was the only opportunity. And so this doc was getting ready to retire. He was seeing, I think, 25 people a week, a couple of days a week in the practice and just in the afternoons. So it was a great opportunity to have a physical space that was built out, for a chiropractic office already, and have some sort of, patient base to work off of. But I mean, walking in there were no computers, Joe. I mean, I know for some of these young docs listening, they can't even fathom that, but this is 2000, I don't know, 10 years ago. And there was a major technological gap, but there was some structure to work off of there. And it was like the only opportunity I had. And so I asked you to help me out and with that transition. And I'm a year out of school. I've been a chiropractor for a year. I know how to adjust and see patients, but the idea of like trying to buy a practice and the idea of like trying to negotiate a lease and the idea of all these other pieces that I was not fluent in was terrifying. And you were amazing. You were a big help on that space.
Yeah, it's interesting when you're buying a practice. Most doctors sell the practice based on how much money they need to buy their boat or to retire, and they pick a number, and that's a number they use to sell. So many of the deals that I've helped doctors do literally is about 50% less per cost than what the price was. But I would never ask, if I was buying a practice, I would never try to negotiate 50% off because I wouldn't know what value was. Unless you're in the market of buying practices and you know what an authentic value is, you know what the market value is, I can authentically look at someone and say it's worth half of what you're asking. And no matter what anger they have, value is value. And it's important for us to help you as a student or a doctor that's looking to go into practice, because those first 6 months of getting into new practice, the amount of mistakes, the amount of cost, and the amount of time of those mistakes. A wrong signing of a lease of 5 years, it could be troublesome. That's 5 years of your life. Purchasing a practice overvalued, that could put you in bankruptcy. There are really serious issues and risks that occur that I've realized over that first 6 months that I've come to commonplace for me because I've done it many times. But when I really sit down and list them out, there's a lot of potential for mistakes in that early on in the first stages, right?
And pause there for a second. So as chiropractors, like, we're very passionate people. So when you get into that space, you're thinking, yes, sign wherever, yes, right here, so I can open my door so I can start seeing patients. And, I can have vivid memories of being in that space and like you negotiating back and forth, like, Joe, can we just get this done, man? I want to go. And, and you start to make bad decisions because you're so excited to help people and start and build a practice that you don't have somebody in your corner who's fluent in these conversations and who have your best interests at heart to set you up to be as successful as possible, not just in the moment you open your doors, but like you said, potentially 5 and 10 years down the road, depending on a deal you're signing.
It's funny. I just had recollected back then. I didn't have this vivid thought, the vivid image, but I remember you being uncomfortable because when I'm negotiating the price, and it's like, we're a chiropractor, so we hug everyone, we love everyone. Sounds like a good price. Give me a hug. So it was very uncomfortable because you're a lover as well, so it was kind of like you uncomfortable, like, oh, Joe, we just gotta stop. So we purchased the practice, and I really like that style of a practice to purchase. Just some open advice to those that are listening. I like a practice that's well built. It's in a good part of town that may not be successful. I know our systems work, and if we implement them in the right location, we don't have to pay top dollar. We don't have to pay for the booming practice with the high cost, because there's risk, especially if you're a student. There's a lot to learn. So I'd rather us find you if we team up together, or if you go out on your own. We'd love to give you that guidance to buy something that may be smaller, but it's a nice layout. And then using the systems, you can build your own practice. It doesn't have to be large. Like Bryne, if you bought that and it was $1 million practice, and I pushed you to get a loan for $600,000, and even if you got it, you would have shrunk it down to the size of what you think you could handle, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Definitely. And then you have issues of authenticity. You're trying to fill in shoes of somebody that was their doctor before. So then as the new doc, you're trying to, blend between, what you think that these patients want to hear and feel and experience versus what you may be able to deliver. So I completely agree with you, man. I was seeing, like I said, I think the practice was like 25 over 4 days. So it's like 6-7 patients a day. But, I think it was really helpful to be in the rhythm, and be adjusting patients on a daily basis, and be able to, feed that beast, in the chiropractic mindset, and being able to serve and be a doctor. But then it also gives you a lot of opportunity, in downtime or, other shifts, to be able to go out and try to grow the practice and market as well. Because that can be daunting, man. I didn't experience this, but I imagine there's some docs, when they open their doors, they have no patience. So like the urgency at those marketing events can be really hard, especially when you're hearing no a lot. So being able to step in and being able to have that, adjusting rhythm while you're building your practice was very, very helpful for me.
So in AlignLife, when we launch a new practice, we have 3 tracks that happen at the same time. So if you're a doctor opening your own practice, it's hard to do all 3 because it's probably just you and maybe one staff member. So the leverage of AlignLife to actually scale and get to profit as soon as humanly possible, because the reason 80% of business fail in the first 5 years is cash flow. They run out of money. So we have to really be on purpose to get to a point of driving profit. And we do that by handling it 3 ways. The first is the build out or the conversion, making sure the rooms are set up well. If we have to take down a wall or redo the front desk, add computers, whatever we have to do to make that center efficient for growth. That's one flow. We have a team of people that do that, people that looking at leases, purchasing, build out, construction, all of these components. That's one. The second one is training, making sure that you're trained, you're scripted, flows and process, efficiencies of communication, and your staff as well. That's the second one. And the third one is marketing, building your website, doing your social media, getting all those things, your Google My Business, everything's set up, everything's unified with the same congruent information to scale. To do all 3 of those by yourself at the same time, I don't know how you could, because first you have knowledge, then you don't have the skill sets to do. It's just a lot. So it's a little more refined, actually a lot more refined over the last 10 years, Bryne. So you may not have had that refinement as I'm expressing now, but you probably remember the onboarding cycle, that there was a checklist that we went through. Talk us through some of that, or your thoughts on what I'm saying on these 3.
All of it, yeah. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And like I said, I'd been, in this system for a year, but in the role of an associate doc, not as, a clinic owner. And so you're 100% right about, the setup and the layout of a practice. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And, when somebody, as experienced as you are, or, people on the AlignLife team are saying, now this is how the flow should go. And I think this is where, a report room should be, and this is how you should set it up. It lets you not learn from failure and have that scar tissue to be able to say, okay, if this is the best way of doing this, then let's, focus on something else. And in the beginning, these new docs, you have a whole lot of time, and it's easy to rely on that time. But like you said, I love the word you said, efficiency. That's one of our core values as a practice. And being able to focus on how to be as efficient as possible, even if time is something that you have a lot of, is a great mindset to be in from day one. The second piece you said about, training, it's one thing, like I said, I'd had a year to learn scripting and, how to communicate effectively with a patient and do a consult or do a report of findings. It's another thing for your team to know how to do that and be able to communicate and how to answer a phone and how to handle objections and how to, handle, adversity, on a daily basis was huge too. And like you said, when we started, it's one team member. I mean, we have 6 now. So it's amazing that, once you get into that rhythm and have everybody, on the same page and training the same way and saying the same things, the quality control there is amazing. And as you continue to scale and build your practice, that's what everybody wants. They don't want, their finger and thumbprint on everything. They don't want to control everything. They just want consistency, and they want to make sure that they have transparency in what's going on. So totally speaks to, I can vividly remember, that piece of it as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting because looking at some, I've been in the profession over 25 years. I talk to colleagues, and one of the issues they run into, even those that are very successful, is their operations manual is not updated because they're busy running a practice and their manager's busy. So it's good. It's like 70% accurate, and about 30% not updated with all their dynamic growth and changes they've made. But once you lose more than 5% of value inside of the manual, you just don't use it anymore because you have to tell the staff, well, that's not updated. We do that a little different. And, this is kind of like that, but we don't kind of, do the full thing here. Then when you onboard a new staff member, you don't even use it. So now your manager is training someone at the front desk, and then the front desk is training the next person. And it's like the telephone game, right? Where you're trying to do the telephone game and the story changes. Then you're like, what did they say at the front desk? Where did that come from?
Yeah.
And it's transmitted through. So one thing we're proud of AlignLife is we update the operations manual literally every 90 days to make sure that it's 100% accurate, that you follow it. And that's something, how do you feel about that? In that, are you going back to the manual, or is that a struggle, or how do you feel with that?
The beauty of having an amazing team is that you don't have to be awesome at everything. You just have to have a team that's awesome at everything. So I can't personally speak to, being in the office, but our office manager does and trains within that space. And we just onboarded somebody literally last month. So, I know that that's happening on an ongoing basis, and it's quality control that everybody's doing the same thing the same way in the right way. And that's critical as you continue to grow and to have quality control and make sure you're delivering at your absolute highest level.
Yeah, that's great. So you were finish up with the launch process. There are, when we're talking about purchasing practices, like those of you who are on the call, you may not have, you think, I don't have enough finance. I've never trained a staff. There's going to be a lot of doubts in your mind. I just want to spend a moment on the mental journey, the talk track that we have. I know I had in my first practice. I was just literally paranoid. That was the word I would use. I'll tell you a quick story of my 25 years ago. This is a funny story, but I remember I was in Gold's Gym. It's my first practice I opened that you played some time in. Mm-hmm. And I sat in the room, and this is, before we even used computers for notes. And we sat on the floor because I didn't have any chairs. And I had 2 staff I hired. But I didn't know what they were going to do. I didn't have job descriptions. Someone told me to hire 2. So I hired 2. So we're sitting on the floor, and I said, can you take notes? She says, well, we don't have pens. I'm like, okay, well, remember to get pens. Can you call to see if Office Depot's open? She says, we don't have phones. I'm like, okay, well, all right, let's have a meeting next week.
When we have phone pens.
So it taught me from that first day that Well, if you look at the onboarding process of AlignLife now, it's literally like 300 steps. AlignLife does 200 of them. We do the 200 of the work, but you know what we're doing. We know what you're doing, and it's a checklist. And it's a long checklist, but it's every little piece from your opening a merchant account to getting the phones, and it's all in the right order. So I can't tell you how much time, effort, and scar tissue when someone just sees this list. Oh, it's a checklist. I'm like, no. This is a perfected.
This is a success list.
Yeah, it's a success list. Yeah. That the amount of pain that we remove from that list to make sure it's in order at the right time. You know what I mean? So there's a lot behind the scenes on that.
Go back to what you were talking about it made docs may not have like the finances set up on that front end, because what you were a big help with in the franchise was when I opened our practice, I thought I was like doing amazing, and I had $4,000 saved up to be able to like open this practice. and then it was like, well, we can probably open it for, X amount. I want to say it was like 30 grand. And that was like razor thin at that time too. But, you brought in another doc, which was a complete foreign concept to me, that somebody, a chiropractor wants to be a part of other chiropractor, be successful, and became a partner, as we opened Springfield. It would have never happened. And I can remember being, at a restaurant with you and this partner, and like jotting down like what our organization was going to look like and the structure of it, and having conversations that I felt like I was an alien, like an outsider, like what is this? So, like, will you speak to a little bit about, like, not necessarily specifically in, how you helped us, but that there is a network of docs that are literally ready to be able to support and help somebody if they decide, like, I want to branch out and I want to open my own practice as opposed to starting as an associate?
We just did one in Canton, Georgia recently, and a doctor at AlignLife funded another doctor. And don't get me wrong, the doctors are funding, are making a great return on their money. It's a fair return. So it's an investment strategy. And I only invest in things that align with my core values. So most of my investments are in health in some way, shape, or form, because that's my belief system. So a lot of chiropractors, same way, especially in our tribe. I really enjoy seeing that, because I see the heart of the giver through the journey when they watch that person succeed. And no matter who they are, they're touched that they help that person launch. And then the appreciation from the doctor. And I love it being inside of one family who's committed to serving the world to better health. So yeah, Bryne, I can't say enough about that. I actually like doing that more than I like getting them to a banker and going through 9 months of paperwork to try to get the banking. It's just so cool to have that opportunity. But yes, we have outside investors. We have chiropractic investors. We have SBA relationships. We have many other different sources of money. Doing this for 25 years, I've taken people from bankruptcy to $1 million practices. And you can't do that without having some way of getting money because, they just don't have the experience. So if you're on the call and you're looking for, that's a gap. It's not that you can show up with nothing. You either need a credit score, you need experience, you need a few dollars, you have to show up with some component, and we'll help massage it into a plan to generate or locate cash to help you open your practice. But to me, society's doesn't have enough chiropractor. When I'm going to go on a tangent because it's my vision mindset, is, and I see the pain and the suffering in the world, the lies, the abuse of medication, the unnecessary surgeries. It just fuels my fire to help, and I use AlignLife as a vehicle. I'm not just AlignLife centric. I'm a servant for this profession on the board of One Chiropractic, just wanting to serve the world with better healthcare, telling the truth to people. So anything I can do inside AlignLife or outside AlignLife to help doctors get into the ability to serve is extremely meaningful to me.
And that's possible through what we're talking about within, this investment structure, because not only is, a doctor able to go out and we get to add more chiropractors to the profession and be successful, but then a lot of times that investor, especially in my case, that investor is invested in not just the success of, you as a person, as a business, but as the practice and helping the practice grow. And if you have outside investors that aren't people in chiropractic, they just want to see the business grow. But when you have chiropractors, investing in the success of not just the patients, but the profession. Like, that's an amazing place that everybody wins. Like, the investing doc wins, the new doc wins, the profession, our patients win. It's a cultural growth that I think, I don't know it exists in a lot of places. And I was amazed to even see that was something that was a possibility.
Yeah, I didn't think of it that way, but I like that because it's so true. There's a lot of energetic connection there that's very deep. So that's awesome. So if anyone has any question that's listening or viewing this podcast, please reach out to AlignLife. You can go to alignlife.com and you can reach out, and we'd love to have a conversation to help you. Whether or not you're interested in the movement that we've created, we're here to serve chiropractors. So we'd love to have a conversation so we can guide you in any way to reach your potential. So Bryne, thanks again for your time, your expertise, your commitment to this profession and to your community. Really appreciate it.
Good out to you, brother.
This episode was brought to you by AlignLife Chiropractic and Natural Health Centers. If you're interested in creating your dream practice or want to know more about AlignLife, go to alignlifepodcast.com.